All right, welcome to the channel, and today we'll be talking about the Xduoo TA32, which is a all-in-one tube DAC setup. Basically, a tube hybrid with a really cool DAC that you can like swap out in and out with these really cool little module type deals, which we'll go over and build an aesthetic and all that jazz. And this was sent out by Apos Audio. They are not asking me to say or do anything other than my honest opinion regarding the TA32 by Xduoo. So let's dive right into build an aesthetic and move on from there. All right, so here is the Xduoo TA32. It's quite the device. It's very large. It's a big boy. Let's dive right into the aesthetic of it. I actually really dig the dark gray with the Xduoo classic, kind of like the red knob here. Really pretty. I will say though is I'm not the biggest fan of the yellow. And you can't change that. At least when me messing around with it, I haven't found a way to change that. So it's pretty much stuck in that funky yellow. Anyhow, that's not my favorite, but overall it's a very pretty device and it's solid. It's like a very heavy, big device. It is a hybrid and it has this really cool device or mechanism, not device, mechanism inside, which allows you to swap out the DAC chip that's in there. And so the one that's in there now is their ROHM DAC. And it's kind of interesting that they can just, like, it's basically a little cool little module, and I'll roll some B-roll so you can kind of see what it looks like inside. But it's swappable. You can actually you unscrew it out of the bottom, and then you pop it out and swap it with a new one. And I think you can do this ROHM, and then they have I believe an AKM, and then a ESS, I believe, these are the options for the different modules on this device. And then for the tubes, you have a 5U4G in the back here, and then up front, you have two 12AU7s. And obviously you can swap these to your heart's content to find the synergy that you like. And so aesthetically, I also really dig like this wavy kind of tube protector. And there's actually, it's sunk in. You can kind of see it along the edges here as it's sunk in. There's one thing that I will say is I would have liked as well is this kind of cool wavy system is maybe like a full actual cage that went over the top of this to protect the tubes, because they do get quite hot. Like right here, like I'm not touching it and it's hot. Like it's a hot tube. So that's something I think would be kind of cool if they had like a more protective setup, like cage right there. And then as far as the overall build, it's solid, man. This thing's very nice. The volume pot has a nice chunkiness to it. It's got a not quite stepped attenuator, but it has like this like thunkiness to it, like dunk 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 kind of feel to it. I really dig that. It feels nice to use, and it's also you push it in to use it as well to do like select. And then on the front here you have your, obviously LCD, you got your menu, your gain, and your pairing. And pairing is for if you wanted to use Bluetooth. That's what you would basically do. You'd hit the pair and hold it down till you got pairing. Also you have 6.3, 4.4, and XLR in the front. On the back here, and I'll roll some B-roll so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. On the back you have your pretty standard fare inputs and outputs balanced out. You have balanced in. You have RCA for the DAC out and RCA for the tube out for like a pre type deal, and or as a DAC out kind of deal. And on the back as well, you have like a Bluetooth antenna and a USB and a coaxial, I believe. And I think there's another one in there, but it's all the standard fare kind of inputs and outputs kind of deal. So what the unique part is that you can do the separation of the tube and the DAC in the RCA section. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so back to the front, we have the menu button here, and you hold that down and you get into the filters, and there's only two. Not much of a big difference between the two of them. It's noticeable, but it's more of like a fine-tuned type deal, and there's only two, so not a big deal there. You pick that one and you hold menu, go back, and then you have black light, which is actually to have a timer for this front screen here to black out, like so to turn off, and that's that sort of thing. This rapidly switches, but so basically it's to turn off this automatically. So you have 15 second, 30 second, 1 minute, or 2 minutes. So back to the menu here, brightness, pretty standard fare. It's just how bright the front LCD or LED, whatever this is. I kept it on 3, and then menu, I remember to go back to menu. Then pH balance is not what you think. It's actually headphone balance. So you can go, if you have better hearing in one ear or whatnot, you can actually fine tune the left and right balance of your headphones. So that's kind of interesting. And then on this part you have display, which you can either have sampling or spectrum. And the spectrum is just the kind of like the seeing how the music is playing, that kind of deal. And you can kind of see left and right, and it'll just kind of up and down. So that's that. And then at the far end, I'm just going to circle back, is reset. So it'll reset all those settings. And that's the menu. And then gain, you can kind of see a little object there. It says L. And then if you hit gain, it will go up to medium and high. And then a little lever kind of moves. It's kind of cool. Anyway, so those are actually kind of chunky as well, so they sound kind of cool and they feel decent to press. And then you can select with the volume pod as well. And that's more or less the build and aesthetic. I actually dig the aesthetic a lot, well, not necessarily minus, but it would be neat if they had an option or an accessory that you can purchase later to cage over the top of this. And they might, maybe I just didn't notice it. That's my take on build and aesthetic. So let's move on to my thoughts on sound and final thoughts. All right, so final thoughts on the Xduoo TA32. As far as sound goes, I actually really dug the sound. It has this neutral with a slight lean towards warmth, and you could probably fine-tune that with the different tubes if you wanted to, like, kind of get there. But I believe overly, like, as far as like the hybrid aspect of it, so like the way the transistors are and that kind of thing, to actually get the sound out the way it is, I believe is more of just a naturally neutral sound with a slight warmth leaning with the tubes. So take that for what it is. At least that's my thoughts on it. I mostly use this with my lovely Caldera closed, which was not my favorite pairing. It was a little bit too detailed, a little bit too bright leaning with that pairing, and it just wasn't my favorite. I also was using I got these in. These are the Meze Silvas, and this was actually a really fun pairing. It has a very fast, detailed, dynamic sound signature to it, and that's actually another thing, is the dynamic factor of this amp DAC combo hybrid all-in-one, is that the dynamics were just really across the board. All the different headphones I had was very present. Like, that would be like the main thing I picked up on with this combo. But my main listening was, besides the Silva, was with the Atrium opens and the Atrium closed. Mostly the Atrium closed, and that was just lovely pairing. It sounded fantastic. It maintained the details, but it kind of warmed everything up a little bit more, and it gave it a little bit more low end, and it was just a nice pairing. I really liked that pairing a lot. But overall sound signature, I would say, in my opinion, is neutral with a lean towards warmth, and it's not bad. Actually, I really enjoyed the sound signature of it. The other factor is the dynamics were really present, and then the detail and imaging is really solid, and it wasn't quite holographic like a OTL or like a big tube amp. It has more of just a really good stage, and it doesn't have that much depth to it. It's got depth, but it's just not that holographic depth that I'm used to with like a bigger tube kind of amp kind of deal. The other factor was while the ROHM DAC chip that's in here now was good, and it sounds really good, I did prefer it with my big R2R DACs that I have on hand, the Spring 3, my TT2, that kind of thing became a little bit more alive. It kind of gave it that little extra kick to kind of bring it over the top to lean into my preferences. But that's kind of unfair because I'm kind of evaluating this as its all-in-one purpose kind of deal. So as an all-in-one, it was above average for sure, and it definitely fit, in my opinion, that price point that it's at, which is right around under $1,000, $900 to $1,000, I think is where it falls in the price point, which is pricey, but you're getting a really good tube hybrid that has a really good DAC in it, and it can do everything. It even has the pre-outs, so you can do desktop speakers, or you can do preamplifier, that kind of deal. A really nice setup for this, and it's solid. It's solidly built. It's fantastically built, actually. Like, really impressed with the build quality. For sound quality, it's a definite win. I don't think anyone could complain about this overly, other than I will say that it takes time to warm up. So the first 5 to 10 minutes, it was kind of not the best. And so that's to be expected with tubes. You kind of want them to warm up. And I found that around the 15 to 20 minute marker for the tubes to warm up and kind of hit their stride and kind of be at their playing at their best kind of deal was the sweet spot for me, at least, was about that 15 to 20 minute warm up time. Everything below that was, especially below the 5 minute mark, it got a little bit too bright. It just wasn't my favorite. It was kind of like, first impression kind of thing would be really bad. So you definitely want to let it warm up for like at least 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to kind of get it moving properly and doing its thing. That out of the way, once it was warmed up and going, it sounded fantastic. And yeah, that's more or less my thoughts regarding sound on the Xduoo TA 32. Final thoughts, it's a fantastic device. I'm really impressed with it. Words. The only other thing I've been noticing is that the menu and like these little icons here on the front plate here it looks like they could be probably rubbed off over time. So something to be aware of and kind of pay attention to. And you can always get something to replace it later on if that is the case of what it is. Nothing egregious yet, but I could see where that might be a potential thing that could happen down the road. Yeah, this thing's been pretty great and I really enjoyed it, and it'll be going off to probably Apos for whoever gets it next for the demo unit kind of deal, kind of run. The only other complaint I had was that I kind of thought it'd be cool if they had like a cage to go over the top of this to kind of protect more the tubes, and also maybe kids if you had them, or cats or something like that, because these are hot. Like right here, I'm even holding my hand above it, and this is hot. Like this is warm, so it gets really warm, and it's summertime, so I'm actually kind of sweating a little bit in my room. It's small. This is putting off a lot of heat. So in the wintertime, this would be fantastic. In the summertime, it's a little hot. It gets a little warm. So also something to be aware of. Fantastic device. I was really impressed with it, and Xduoo keeps putting out really kind of banger audio gear for really good budget, good price points, and high quality. With that, I'll let everybody have their morning, afternoon, or evening back. All right, cheers, everybody.